Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Spider-Man The Heist DLC, no damage walkthrough. This project is going to feature a variety of missions all put together with all of the side tangent things removed. So on this particular guide you're not going to be seeing me doing all the moving to the locations or any of the miscellaneous interactions. It's just going to be the combat, the stealth, and the parts where you can be injured and you have to fight basically. The more astute people out there will know that there's nothing I can really do to help you do this no damage. The no damage is more of a stipulation for myself than it is for you guys. Hopefully the strategies herein that I'm going to show are going to be good enough for you to imitate them if you have any problems, but I'm sure you're going to do just fine, because as we know in this Spider-Man game, you are incredibly capable. You are so capable that a moment such as this right now at the very beginning of the first mission is, in the Maria mission, is kind of hilarious. Because you can use both the square takedown and the triangle takedown, and Spider-Man is insanely just capable. It's kind of funny. Like, the amount of safe takedowns in this game is the ultimate power trip. You can really dismantle these enemies, and you can get really creative with it if you want to. You can do all kinds of distractions and separating people and then pouncing on them. Like, you probably do this room by just using the triangle takedown, just by isolating people, and it's much quicker. And maybe you could get it almost looking balletic, like some kind of dance, which would be kind of cool. But I'm just going to be taking it, quite pedestrian, quite slow. If you're wondering what my character is, this is the character that I beat the game with on the first time through. I have most of the upgrades except for the ones that I intentionally avoid. For instance, I don't have the better dodge. I don't have any of the, if there are any kind of life increases or anything along those lines. It's unfortunate because some of the upgrades at the bottom of those trees are actually pretty cool, but I can't get access to them because there are certain moves that I just don't really want in my repertoire, and thus it would be nice if you could turn them off, and maybe they've added that because it's been a while since I've played this, guys. But once you're inside, there is an extra stealth section that you can also do in combat should you choose to. I'm going to try and take out the big guy first. That's why I'm using the triangle zip move. However, I managed to lock onto the wrong guy, which is something that's going to happen a lot in this environment. In the art gallery, it's kind of crowded, and it's very easy not to get the input you want. It makes some of the movement feel really finicky at times because it's so close-quartered, but you'll get there. It just takes a couple of attempts, and there's a really awkward fight coming up, and this one can be quite awkward if you do it incorrectly. At the beginning, you have to injure a certain amount of people before it triggers the next phase, which is a battle. I don't know how many enemies it is specifically, but the moment you hit the guy that's the last one, it will trip a cutscene that makes the guards and the criminals, start stealing items from the museum. When they do this, it takes you to probably the trickiest fight in this segment, where you have to stop people from stealing precious art. And I have no idea what happens if they get to the door, guys, because I've never let anybody through. But it gets real close sometimes, and it's pretty frustrating. Because I feel like this section is interesting because it's different. I don't remember anything like this in the main game, but it goes on a little bit too long. And it's one of those moments where you kind of wish it would stop and you wish it would end, but it just keeps on going. And I don't know, it could be the way I did it by just sitting down here in the foyer area and guarding the door. Maybe coming down here and doing it this way means that it's longer than it should be. But there's moments when I've beaten up all the enemies that are in the room, and the next wave of people stealing art hasn't spawned, and then when they do, there's like 2 random guys just running towards me. It's kind of bizarre. But the strategy is simple, guys. You can go for the people who are stealing art directly as they spawn. They'll spawn on the left, then the right, then the left, then the right, then later on there'll be 2 on the bottom. If you do that, you can take them out when they're green, and you can kind of skip the early phases of this, but it still seems to go on forever even when you do it that way. The easiest way to stop them is to hit them with web once, and then just do any attack to them, because they're weakened so that they're not a massive pain in the ass, because this section is already very crowded. And the first thing you'll notice about the DLC, which is the first thing I noticed, is that they throw a lot of enemies at you in the encounters. In the main game, there was already a couple of sequences where I felt like the enemy numbers were a little bit too high for just the flow and the fun of the game. But in this, every single encounter is like that, and you just have to get used to it because that's the way it's been designed. The good news is, Spider-Man's abilities and his gadgets are just ridiculous. I'm using a character right now that has no gadget upgrades at all, I don't think. I think I might have maybe 1 on my web shooter, but the rest of them are completely untouched, and they're still incredible. I can't even begin to tell you guys just how powerful the gadgets are. The only real limitation of them is that you have to replenish them once you use them, but there's so many other suit abilities that can help you do things like that and get them back quicker. And then the final thing is, some of them are at the mercy of a lock-on system that can be really, really good, and at other times really, really stupid. So I'm going to have trouble here coming up, because you see the guy on the balcony with the gun? He's running around trying to shoot at me, but for some reason, Spider-Man wants to lock on to all the balustrades and all the banisters, but not the dude. So just then, I tried to fire some web at him so I could web him down. It didn't work. And he's going to be kind of my thorn in my paw for this sequence, because I don't want to go too close, just in case he shoots me. Yeah, I'm waiting for these guys to turn up, and they're taking their sweet time. So it's this interesting little balancing act, and I could have just swung up there and took him out, but I didn't really want to move from this position because it started working really well for me. This is a very long sequence of doing this, and it's... I don't know, what did you think about this sequence? Did you like it? At first I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting, and then when it came to taking no damage with all the people with the guns, then it became a little bit annoying. But that's because I'm doing a challenge run, you know? Games change how they are played and how they are perceived when you do something that is, you know, out of the ordinary. But that is the end of that sequence, guys. It is tricky. Oh, no, it isn't. Look, you see? I thought that was the end. Even the game slowed down, but there's more people. Whoops. See, this is where I didn't understand this section. Very bizarre. But I think after these two guys, it's the final wave. I'm pretty sure that 2 guys on the floor from each side is the final one. Right then, I was trying to throw him into the car, but I overshot it, and it ended up hurting me. So just throw them directly forward. Forward is your best bet to stick them to the walls and stick them to the pillars and things. And there you go. When you get the experience, it's the end of the encounter. If you have the flourish ability, what is it called? Is it the web blossom, I think it's called? If you have that move, you can just web a ton of them all together at the beginning and make that probably a little bit quicker on the big crowd of enemies. And then you have this, which is the rocket phase. So this is a very large-scale battle with a lot of people with rocket launchers and a lot of people with guns. If you stay in the middle room, you're going to have people from every single direction shooting at you, and it gets really out of hand. I was able to do it on my first run-through of the game, but it was not fun. So when it came to recording for something that I think is going to be a much better strategy, if you come up onto the balcony, you will funnel the enemies towards you, and you will not have any problem for the people with the rocket launchers. And if done correctly, you're going to isolate all the normal dudes, isolate all the heavies, and then you'll just have to get rid of all the people with the rocket launchers. And for some reason, which I'm not entirely certain of, the pathfinding to go up the staircase to get here doesn't seem to be as intuitive for these enemies as you would think. So they don't come at you in a big wave of 30 dudes. It takes time for them to incrementally get to you. And you can use this in your favour to web them against the wall, to pick them up and chuck them, to throw things at them. However you fight in the game that you're comfortable with, you'll be able to whip out here. And then as always, remember that you do have the Spider-Man vision, which is going to tell you when people are coming through the walls, and you want to use that to your advantage. As you can tell just then, I obviously wanted to drag the fucking guy with the gun and not the heavy that I just webbed. Perfectly exactly what I wanted, thank you so much, Mr. Spider-Man. But we made up for it, not the end of the world. There is a terrifying swing kick that does not work coming up. The tracking on the swing kick just decides not to function, and I swing straight past a guy, and that got really hairy and scary, but other than that, this is a very manageable strategy for this. And that's what it's all about, right, guys? If you are having trouble for whatever reason and you're looking to a video, I'm hoping that this can be the heads up that you needed. And I apologise for this, by the way. I did not disconnect my headset, I did nothing with my fucking headset, and apparently all these stupid pop-ups were coming up on the screen, so thanks a lot, PlayStation, you're my best friend today. But they do go away, thankfully, and then we can go back to it. And now, there are only 3 rocket launcher men left, and you've done this big brawl. So I webbed these 2 guys because it's a quick way of getting rid of them, and watch this for an epic fail coming up. Look at this. What in the holy fuck just happened, dude? How does that happen? I've never seen that before. Never once has that lock-on or the dive kick ever failed me. But it did then. And that is the end of the first mission, a mission entitled The Maria. So this is a main mission, but technically it's going to be a side mission because it's introducing you to the bomb disarming using the little spider robot. And I think it's called The Problem with Arson is the mission's name. I have to admit, guys, I'm not the biggest fan of the side content in this game. I think it's the epitome of filler, and I think it's just the fact that playing as Spider-Man and swinging around is so much fun that it elevates what is pretty much a bog-standard affair of busy work for the player to bother with. However, this tickles a part of my brain that really loves Metal Gear Solid 2 and the section where you have to disarm the bombs by freezing them. So for some bizarre reason, I really enjoyed that mission, and I didn't mind it one bit, so that's kind of cool, right? And then the next one is called Long Lost Loot. So once again, this is a gold triangle mission denouncing that it's mandatory to progress the plot, but it's introducing one of the new side missions that the DLC is going to let you play as, which is the concept of finding collectibles. I'm not going to say too much about this because you either like this kind of stuff or you don't. Collectibles have been around since the dawn of man. I'm pretty sure they're in the Bible. So once again, it's either a thing or it's not. As far as what it's like when it comes to mechanically interacting with them, I don't think it's the most interesting collectible in this game. It's not a bad one by any means. It's definitely going to scratch that itch of the completionist that loves to do this kind of thing. But personally, I think using the camera is a way more intuitive and interesting way of making us interact with the world, and I feel like they nailed it with that. And I feel like this is kind of a little bit too static for my tastes. It would have been really cool if they'd have given you maybe 3 things that you had to take a photograph of without standing still. You had to photograph them while in motion, so it was all about learning how to move and how to use the camera while swinging and using everything in conjunction with each other. I think it would have been really, really cool. But instead we're going to go to a box on the top of this building and press 2 buttons and we're done. So yeah, there you go. Just find random box and break it. Long Lost Loot is complete. And then we transition into the next mission, which is Like Old Times. This starts with a stealth sequence that can also be done combat. At the beginning, there are lampposts and roofs that you can swing to, and from here you can isolate certain enemies and take them down without having their attention come to you. I did this on my first run, without anybody knowing I was there. On this run, the guy that normally moved to the left and let me take him out so then I could just press triangle and take the rest of them out, he didn't move where he did to on my first run, so I wasn't able to show you my initial strategy here, and I ended up just getting bored of waiting for him to do what he was supposed to do, and then I got on with it. But if you are interested in doing this without setting off their attention, just use distractions. Use your web to shoot at things to make them divert a bit, and then take them out that way. It's not important, there's only like 4 guys with guns, and these are not the people in that one mission Into the Fire from the main campaign, which is the most difficult thing in the game. This is nothing like that, so you don't have to worry at all. One thing that you do need to know though, which I find really bizarre, and I'm not certain that it works this way, but I'm 99% sure, I think you can get shot by the police. I've been hit by a gun while fighting enemies that were fighting the police, and the guy I was fighting did not shoot me. And the only thing that I can say is that I got hit by the police's crossfire. And if anybody else has been hit by the police, please tell me in the comments, because I feel like at times when it was happening, I was going insane, because I couldn't figure out why I was getting shot. And I believe, but I haven't checked the footage, I haven't checked the tapes, guys, that it's the police. So be ever so careful when you are engaging people that police are shooting at, because it's very easy for them to clip you. Of course, if you're not playing no damage and you're healing and things, it's perfectly fine, it's not going to kill you. But in a run such as this, the most frustrating thing on the planet is getting clipped by some stupid bullshit that shouldn't exist. But right now you're being introduced to the new enemy type, which is a heavy with a minigun. I hate this enemy, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it, I don't think it adds anything to the game, I think it's terrible. What he's going to do is he's going to stand his ground and he's going to strafe you with his minigun. After he fires his minigun, he has a period of vulnerability that you can exploit. You seemingly cannot web this guy with any of the gadgets like you can do the traditional, normal heavies. So right now, I don't know the best strategy to kill this guy really, really quick, other than by keeping close to him, dodging him, and then hitting him in the back. That's the only way I've found to kill this guy really fast. The strategy I'm going to show here involves 0 skill. All you have to do is perpetually web him or throw things at him. If you have the suit ability that gives you 2 times focus for web attacks, you can use just web shot and you will get double focus bar, and then you can go and take him down and he'll die from 2 bar takedown. But instead, I use battle focus to give me focus, and then the moment I have 2 bars, I execute him with it. It takes no skill, it's not impressive, it's the easiest strategy I found for this enemy in this encounter. Purely because I've only done it twice, so I don't really know what the most overpowered, ridiculous, easy, cheesy mode is to beat that enemy. And at the moment, I think it's just build focus and execute him. More testing will be needed, but I am going to be doing an ultimate run with no upgrades, only using web shot, no other gadgets, so I'm going to have to figure it out then, because I'm not going to have the moves that I need to get that shit done. But this fight here, as funny as it is to get stuck in the door like I did, this is a really, really intensive encounter with lots of enemies in a small amount of area with lots of guns. The first thing I'm going to do again is activate my battle focus to get me my 2 bars so I can execute the guy with the gun, because he's just going to ruin everything that happens next. And then from this point onwards, you can spin the items in the environment, you can do your combos, you can launch into webbing, you can use the ridiculously powerful gadgets like the bomb I just used then, and just be aware that another heavy's going to turn up, but it's a traditional one. And as much as I think that the traditional heavy is broken in this game, he's still way more manageable than the new guy, so it kind of makes you appreciate him in a new light. But all you need to really do, if you have the upgrades for this, is to web him and chuck him into a wall. It's the easiest way to deal with him. Knock him down and then web him. You can knock him down with square triangle if you hold triangle and you kick somebody into him. That will work against the heavy. And then you can web him to the ground. But I tried it against the guy with the minigun and it did not work. I don't know why. I don't know if I have to web him first before it will trigger. But as it stands, guy with minigun is a legitimate threat unless you isolate him and execute him. But that is the first batch of missions from the Heist DLC for Spider-Man on Spectacular difficulty, taking no damage. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of the walkthrough, and you take care now.